Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's version of the Virtual Plant Clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service here in Hernando County, Florida. And today I'm here all by myself. My regular co-host, Lily Browning, is in Pennsylvania visiting with family up there in the Great White North, where it's a whole lot colder than it is here in Central Florida at the moment. She may end up watching today and putting in a comment or something. I'll definitely share that if something pops up. If you have any lawn and garden questions, anything to do with your turf grass or trees or landscape plants, anything growing in your yard, please just go ahead and put your question in the comments, and I should be able to see it and read it and share it, and we'll do our very, very best to answer it. The platform we use for the StreamYard is a little twitchy sometimes. I'm not sure if I get all your questions or not. I think that I get just about all of them. I got buddies. Good morning, buddy. How are you doing? I had a class yesterday on diagnosing plant problems. I noticed Buddy attended that. So thank you so much for that. But like I said, if you have any lawn and garden questions, I'm here for you to do my very best to answer those questions. You could always email them to me. Let me go ahead and put my email up on the screen here. So if you have a picture or something, go ahead and email me a picture and I can screen share it so that everybody watching live can see what the question is, and we'll do our best to figure it out. Like I said, you can go in the chat and put your question in there. And Buddy's doing well, and he says, great weather here. Buddy is up in the Panhandle, and it is beautiful here in Hernando County. I think it was like 59 first thing this morning. Wasn't chilly at all. First day without having to scrape ice off the windshield in quite a few days. And it's just beautiful and sunny out there right now. So enjoy. I think this is the way that winter weather should be. But winter weather isn't always like this. I know that everybody in Florida, whether you're like Buddy up in the Panhandle or the other people we have on a regular basis, like Lee. Good morning, Lee. How are you? Lee is down in Broward County. Everybody in Florida got cold weather, unusually cold, a lot colder than what you're used to. And I know that here in Central Florida, we got freezing temperatures. I think at my house, the coldest it got was up to the upper 20s. I'm not sure exactly. And that varies an awful lot because no matter where you live, you could turn on the TV news and they tell you the temperature, and that's almost always taken at the local airport. And a local airport may be, 10, 20, 30 miles away from you. So the temperature at your house might be different, but if you go to different spots in your yard, the exact temperature is different still. So they may say on TV that it's freezing, it's 32 degrees. You could walk out front and up at the little enclosed flower bed up by your front door, go out there with a thermometer and it's 34 degrees because it's up tucked close to the house and protected. You may walk out in the middle of your front yard or backyard and check and it's 30 degrees. So it varies a little bit, but that has a really, really large impact on the exact temperature on your plants. And to make things even trickier and more confusing, it doesn't have to get to 32 for frost to start to form and then start forming on the leaves and stems of your plants and do a lot of damage that way. So even if the temperature doesn't get down to quite 32, cold temperatures can be damaging. And to make it even worse, if you're growing tropical fruits and vegetables, tomatoes, mangoes, papayas, bananas, anything like that here in Central Florida, if it gets down to mid 30s, you start to get a little bit of frost on your plants, it can do a huge amount of damage because many of those plants get really unhappy and start to show some damage in the mid 30s, or even any weather below 40 is going to make them unhappy. They're going to stop growing. They're not going to do anything. They're going to go like, I'm not really happy. I'm not going to be damaged, but I'm definitely not happy about this. And I'm not going to grow or do anything for you until the weather warms up again. And we have a question here. Buddy asks, when will you be updating the progress on the vanilla orchids and where to get them? I will reach out to Dr. Chambers and see if he has any updates or new information. That is a class that we had live. Gosh, when was that? That was a good 6 months or so ago. And I read an article just the other day that Dr. Alan Chambers with the University of Florida got a federal USDA Department of Agriculture grant to look deeper at orchids or vanilla orchids, which is where you get vanilla beans and vanilla flavoring from. But he's going to look even closer at vanilla orchids to try to find specific named varieties, which ones do well. You know, this variety does well in Florida, this one doesn't. This one takes colder temperatures, so maybe Buddy could try growing that up in the panhandle. This one has to be kept warm all the time, so it'll do great in Miami, but not so much in the panhandle. I'll reach out to him and get some kind of update because that was a very, very popular class. We do have a recording of that, and I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. That was one of the couple of things that I wanted to cover today. So, good question, buddy, and I'll even make a note of that to get some kind of vanilla update. Look for that on our Facebook page. So, whatever I get from him, I'll go ahead and post on Facebook. And getting back to the cold weather, Lee lives in Broward County, and she says it was in the 30s here in Broward. Wow, that's unusually cold for there. I'm kind of used to it here in Hernando County, but that's really cold for there. She said it was in the 30s. So cold I had to cover my tomatoes and peppers. I hope my mangoes will pull through. A lot of times, plants, and it all depends on the type of plant, will get damaged from cold weather. So, for example, an American holly or viburnum, they grow them up in New Jersey. So if they grow it up north and it takes the weather they get up there, it's not going to get damaged by cold weather here. So every winter, I see people out there throwing blanks on top of their hedges, their hollies, their viburnum, their boxwoods. It's like, guys, it's not going to get anywhere near cold enough to damage those. Other things like tomatoes, peppers, warm season vegetables, if it gets close to 32 or frost forms on those leaves, they will either get damaged or they will get completely killed. They will turn brown, then black, and then turn to mush the next day. Mangoes, your mangoes may have gotten a little bit damaged. You may have lost a little bit of a couple of leaves. It might look a little freezer burnt out around the very top of the tree and around the edges, but hopefully it only got a little bit of damage that it will outgrow. And everybody starts asking right after a freeze, when should I prune? Can I prune? Is it safe to prune? Should I go out and prune today? Should I prune tomorrow? Be patient and don't prune yet. That's because it's only February 3rd. I mean, we just started into February. And here in Hernando County in Central Florida, we potentially have some of the coldest weather of the year during February. It's not guaranteed. February may be warm and beautiful and sunny and 59 first thing in the morning for the whole month. I don't know. But because there is a chance of cold weather and freezing temperatures and possibly a cold front coming through, so the temperatures here get to the upper 20s once again, you really want to wait to prune all your hedges and landscape plants and anything that might have gotten damaged, all your flowering bushes, your many of your fruit trees, for two reasons. The first reason is even though the plants, your hibiscus, might look terrible, it has brown leaves and brown stems all over it. If we get another freeze, that helps to insulate the rest of the bush. So the interior, the main trunk, and the roots are going to be insulated to a certain extent by those brown leaves. And even though the brown dead leaves may get more frost on them, hopefully it's going to help protect the center of the hibiscus and it won't get much damage. Reason number two, if you go out there and prune everything today, in about a week or so, it's all going to start sprouting new growth. So now your hibiscus has all these new little shoots and branches and stems and new little tender leaves coming out. And what's going to happen if you get really cold weather? anywhere from mid-30s down to low 30s, down to upper 20s. It will kill all that new growth and all the new little stems and may do enough damage to the bush that it totally kills it. So we always recommend that people wait and be patient until, for here in Central Florida, generally it's March 1st to March 15th. By March 15th, you're safe to go out there and prune everything. That's not to say I'm going to guarantee that we'll never get a freeze after March 15th, because we have, and it can happen, and it may happen, but chances are pretty low that we're going to get more freezing weather after March 15th. Obviously, Buddy is going to follow different timing because he's up there in Tallahassee, up in the Panhandle. So he's going to have to wait until probably, my guess is, the end of March to prune everything. And Lee down south of us in Broward County, my guess is by soon, in about 2 weeks or so, your chances of cold weather and damaging weather and frosts is going to be pretty remote. So my guess is spring comes to Broward County soon, in about a week or two. So you really have to look at exactly where you live. So the March 15th is for Central Florida. That'll be Hernando County, Orlando, all the way over to Daytona Beach, Port Canaveral, Flagler County. So generally Central Florida, you're safe after March 15th to go out there and prune everything. So after we get cold weather or a freeze, that's always the number one question for a while. And then right a day or two before the freeze, everybody blows up our phones and my email. What do I do? What do I cover things with? Do I water first? Generally, when a freeze is coming, take a look at what kind of plants you have in your yard. And you should have thought about this way back when you chose those plants and planted them. If you have tropical plants and you planted them, that's going to be a problem. But you knew that when you bought them or when you ordered mangoes, bananas, papayas, lychees, everything else. So you're going to have to cover them, going to have to keep them warm. Just water it normally. If it's dry, water it. If it's rained recently or you've watered it recently, you don't have to water it again right before it gets cold. Go out there and cover the plants during the late afternoon before it gets dark, and don't wrap the sheets and blankets up to make basically a lollipop out of the plant. You need to cover the plant and cover the ground also, because what you're doing is you're trying to trap the warmth coming out of the ground all night long. That's going to give it that extra couple degrees of warmth up around your plant. The cloth helps to keep frost from forming on the leaves also. That's a bonus. But this whole system is only going to give you a couple degrees of warmth. So if you have a mango tree, it gets unhappy at 40, gets damaged at, let's say, 35. You cover it with the sheet, it gets down to 27. You're still going to get some damage. Exactly how much, I don't really know. It depends on your microclimate. People get tricky and they put a little night light or possibly even a space heater up underneath that blanket. You have to be very careful. You don't want to be starting a fire out in your front yard in the middle of the night during cold weather. And obviously, if you burn up your mango tree, that's probably worse than a little bit of freeze damage. So be very, very careful with those ideas. But there are ways to help keep things a little bit warmer, but it's only going to help so much. So depending on where you live, if it gets really, really cold, your plant is still going to get some damage. So Johanna asks, question, what kind of cloth is an old sheet okay? Yes, old sheets and old blankets are perfect. Using cloth is better than using plastic. Cold can transfer between plastic from the outside to the inside very easily. So especially if that plastic is laying up against leaves and branches in this net, they can get just as cold underneath the plastic as they would with no plastic. So cloth and old blankets, tablecloths, sheets, things like that, save them. And if you have a place to store them, go ahead and store them, because sometime during winter you may need them, and that way you have them handy. You don't want to be running out there with the good sheets, because I know with me, if my wife caught me doing that, I'd be in serious trouble. So just a little piece of advice for the guys out there trying to cover the mango tree. Marianne says, great info. And this is her first time on. Well, welcome, Marianne. We're here pretty much every Thursday. It's very rare when we have to cancel. We do, and we just have absolutely, when we're all busy between, required meetings and traveling and this and that. If you come on, and I'm not even sure if Lily's supposed to be back next week or not. If she's watching, she can definitely answer. But you'll have to tune back in again to see when my regular co-host, Lily Browning, our Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, is on here to help me out with this. Buddy has a great idea. He used hot hands hand warmers in some of the covered potted plants to help get them through a really, really cold night. And he says it worked well. So I've never tried that. I'm not going to guarantee it, but probably worth a try. That's a pretty creative idea. Good for you. And Marianne says she's going to tune in again. So, it's very, very easy to find out exactly if we're going to be on or not and exactly what the link is, because you can watch this, what we're doing right now, on our Hernando County Extension Facebook page. And we have a private Hernando County Extension gardening group, so you can watch it on there. And you can also watch it on my YouTube channel. We're broadcasting right now live on all of them. So through the magic of technology, basically. So the easiest way for you to find out if we're doing it next week, and if so, a link, where do I go? What do I click on? Just go to Hernando Extension, all one word.com. And that is a freestanding web page. And you can go there and see all of our upcoming classes, all of my classes, Lily's classes, everybody else in the office, because I work with other people who do classes. We have Brittany Hall Scharf, who is our county's C grant agent, not secret agent, but C grant. So she is our marine biologist, and she will have classes on drone training, learning how to fly a drone. You have to pay for them, but all that information's in there. Scalloping right before scalloping season. She has a lot of really good events on there. So it's a really good idea to go ahead and bookmark that so that you can check it easily. And let's go and have a look at what it looks like real quick so that you'll be familiar with it. Let me find the right link here. There we go. And that looks like it's shown correctly. So this is what you see when you go to HernandoExtension.com. This is a full list of all of our upcoming events. So you see the virtual plant clinic. That is today's class. So if you had gone here, it would tell you all the links and everything to click on. Tomorrow, we have a very interesting class that we're doing. This is part of a whole series that we're doing in right now during winter, and we're going to do it again in a month or so in the spring. We're just pulling that together right now. And it's called Food Systems in Season Workshops. And this is going to be on tomorrow on YouTube Live, a different YouTube channel, but it's going to be live on YouTube. So anybody can watch it, even if you're not on Facebook. Just click on the link and go ahead and watch it. And then there is that's another copy of that. Like I said, we do have drone training. Brittany is in charge of that. And she has a virtual option coming up for drone training and an in-person option for that class. All the information is here. If you want to become a volunteer to go out and help count and monitor horseshoe crabs here in Hernando County, she has a class on that. So as you can see, we have a lot going on, and all of that is right there on HernandoExtension.com. And what else did I want to show you? All those different classes that I give, Lily gives, we record pretty much all of them between me and Lily. And she does a better job than I do. But between the two of us, we send them to John Cancel, who works for Hernando County government. He is their video expert and does a fantastic job with cleaning up the videos, putting in an intro, putting in an outro with, for further information contact, and they go on the Hernando County government YouTube channel. So let's have a quick look at what's on there. So if we go to Hernando County government's YouTube channel, this is it. And you can see they have a lot of different videos on there. They have information from Hernando County Sheriff's Department, Hernando County Library, a lot of good learning, a lot of good information. But if you click on playlists, you'll see that there is a playlist for Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. And those are all of Lily's videos. So let's see what she has listed there. You can see she just has a whole, wow, she has quite a few videos on here. I'm going to have to, wow, she has an awful lot. I'm going to have to get busy and get more of mine up here. Otherwise, she's going to be making me look pretty sad, I guess. But hey, I have some videos up here too. So we have video recordings of classes that we've done in the past. So you have 5 acres. This is for people who are interested in possibly starting their own small farm or agricultural operation. We have 5 acres part 2 for pasture management, for livestock and for horses, how to grow sweet potatoes, composting, how to grow calabaza pumpkins. One on is your well water well, important information on well and septics and keeping you and your family safe. Non-chemical but effective weed control for the home garden. So there's a whole bunch of previous classes there that we recorded and put back up on YouTube that you can watch whenever you want. Very easy to get to, very easy to find. So let's see if we have any other questions here. Johanna asks, should we cut off the cold burn parts of flower plants so the plant doesn't waste energy on that? Should we wait until after March 15th to do so, or just not cut off any part? That's a big question, and the answer is maybe. So it really depends on the exact plant that you're talking about, because there are plenty of things that the proper time of year to prune them is going to be right now. Whether it gets cold again or not, right now is the time of year when you want to prune them. Most of your fruit trees, you want to prune back. February 15th is a really, really good date that we recommend. So either right today, this weekend, or February 15th is fine. Crepe Myrtles, you want to prune them back before they start the new spring growth. And they're not flushing out yet, so right now is a good time to prune them back. Cold sensitive things like your hibiscus, firebush, other flowering bushes, yesterday, today, tomorrow, anything that might have gotten some cold damage, so it's not really completely cold tolerant no matter what the temperature gets to. Those are the ones that you want to wait until February 15th. If you have, and Johanna says that she has potted flowers, so let's say you have pansies, petunias, snapdragons, like winter annuals growing right now, you can always go in and clean them up. So find the little dead, bloomed out flowers that are all brown and kind of hanging on there. You can clip them off, and that's going to make the flowers flush out and grow more and get more flowers. But cool season flowers are fine with cold weather. They get a little bit of damage when it gets down to the upper 20s. That's pretty cold, but not very much. If, let's say, you have a whole bunch of marigolds and sunflowers and cosmos and things like that growing outside right now, because those are all warmer season flowers, they probably took a lot of damage with the cold weather. If they're in pots and you pull them inside, probably not. But any kind of annuals, you can always clean up, take off that dead leaf, take off that dead flower. That's going to make them look better, and it's going to make them flush back out and get more flowers. So most of the things that we talk about waiting until March 15th are going to be the slightly more cold sensitive generally flowering plants. Now, if you have things in your landscape like I have American holly. That's the holly bush that has the leaves with the really sharp points on it. So I have an American holly hedge. A lot of people have boxwoods that they keep shaped up in a little round ball. You may have different types of viburnums. They take colder weather than we're pretty much ever going to get here in Central Florida. North Florida, I'm not really sure, but here in Central Florida, those things generally never get damaged by really, really cold weather. So it's pretty safe to prune them whenever you want to. But if you prune your holly hedge right now, in about a week or two, it'll probably start flushing out with new growth. And that new growth may be very sensitive to a really, really bad cold front that comes through in the upper 20s. So pluses and minuses, there is no absolute prune on this date, prune everything on this date, or prune everything on this date. It really depends on what plant or tree or bush or hedge or whatever it might be that you're talking about. And Marianne said she was about to ask about crepe myrtles. Okay, good. I beat you to the punch. Yes, generally about February 15th, before they start flushing out with new growth, you want to prune the crepe myrtles. And you only want to prune crepe myrtles lightly. All you have to do is clip off last year's little dead flower clusters. The flower clusters will turn into little clusters of seeds. You can plant those seeds, and most times they'll germinate. If you want to start crepe myrtles from seed, you can try that. Can't guarantee they're all going to sprout, but a lot of them will. If you ever notice, a lot of times if you just let them go, those seeds will fall to the ground, and you wonder, how come I have all these little teeny tiny crepe myrtles coming up? That's why. It flowers, sets seeds, the little seeds fall off, and they can sprout and germinate. So you could always try planting them. But yeah, crepe myrtles, all you have to do is just trim off the old flowers, the old seeds, little dead branches. You want to look and see if you have any branches that are kind of crisscrossing and rubbing up against each other. You got to take off one or the other so that they don't rub and damage each other. That's really bad for diseases. And your crepe myrtles are good to go. You don't have to trim the heck out of them. You don't have to trim them down to a stump. Don't think that they like that. They'll tolerate it. They 9 times out of 10 will survive. It doesn't make them flower better. So you can do that if you really, really want to do it, but you don't have to do that. Just a light pruning, and then they'll flush back out starting in around March, and they'll flower this summer, and everything will be fine. So any other questions, guys, please feel free to go ahead and throw them in the chat box. Do I have anything else to cover here? Here, let me see. If you live anywhere near Hernando County and you suffered really bad freeze damage with the cold weather that came through, and now you have lots of dead plants out in your yard, and you're thinking, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to see if it survives and comes back. But I have a bad feeling that a lot of this stuff is just not going to come back because of where you have it planted and exactly how cold it got in your yard. Something you can do this spring is buy more plants to put in your yard. And a fantastic place to start with that is going to be our Master Gardener Nursery. And here's the address. It is on Oliver Street in Brooksville. If you're familiar with where the Hernando County Fairgrounds are, right along State Road 41, it's on the street that goes right behind the fairgrounds. It's the same street where Animal Control is. And if you go there, our nursery is open every Wednesday and every Saturday from 9 in the morning till noon. And they have a fantastic selection of native plants, a lot of really difficult to find native plants. They did just get a load of native milkweeds in. So if you check really soon, you'll be able to catch some native milkweeds because they're really, really hard to find. And other plants that are Florida friendly that do really well in this area. They do not sell invasive plants. We know what invasive plants are, and we don't sell them. They don't sell plants that are more or better suited for South Florida because what happens during the winter is they will freeze and they will probably die here, and you'll be unhappy and you'll be angry with them and with me, and we don't want that. So we don't sell South Florida plants. We don't sell plants that do well way up north, but are not going to do well here, or they struggle here because of the heat and humidity during the summer. So we never carry things like apple trees because they just don't do well here in Central Florida. Pear trees. Pear trees get a really bad disease in most of Florida called fire blight. So pears are not a good choice for here. So they know what grows well here and what doesn't. And they do a very good job of keeping a really good selection of things that are going to do well here. They have a lot of flowering plants, a lot of really good pollinator plants. They have host plants. What that is plants that caterpillars are going to eat. And you might be like, oh no, I don't want caterpillars to eat my plants. Well, if it's a caterpillar that turns into a beautiful butterfly you want in your butterfly garden, you do want to have host plants to attract caterpillars that turn into butterflies and stay in your yard. So it's kind of part of the whole cycle you need to think about and remember when you're trying to put together a successful butterfly garden. Because if you put in just flowering plants and no host plants, and you spray lots of pesticides in your yard, and you have a service that comes and just sprays the heck out of your lawn, and you're emailing me, how come I don't have butterflies? Those are all reasons why you don't have butterflies. So make sure you put in lots of host plants and lots of flowering plants and lots of native plants, because a lot of our beautiful native butterflies and other insects really, really like those native host plants. So any other questions here? Bill asks, when do you fertilize crepe myrtle? That is a very good question. You want to, gosh, crepe myrtle is not a fertilizer hog. It just doesn't need a lot. I would say fertilize it very lightly in the early spring, when it starts new growth, which is going to be anywhere between March 1st and March 15th, and then maybe once again very lightly in the summer when it starts to flower. But if you totally forget and never ever get around to fertilizing your crepe myrtles, they'll still do fine. I've never seen crepe myrtles with a nutrient deficiency or get really fussy about a lack of fertilizer. But very lightly in spring when it starts growing, then maybe once again in the early summer when it starts flowering, and your crepe myrtle is going to do just great. Mary Ann has another, boy, good questions today, guys. Mary Ann asks, I'm curious about bromeliads. Some of mine have brown edges after the cold front. That happens. That's just a little bit of cold damage. The leaves or the foliage on it just got nipped by cold weather. So if you have leaves on it that maybe the tip or the edges are brown, leave them. Just be patient and leave it. Because what will happen is if the damage was really bad, it'll pretty quickly spread and the leaf will completely die. At that point, if the leaves are totally dead, go ahead and clip them off. Dead leaves don't come back and ever get better. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is that leaf, if it got damaged, it's going to die eventually. But in the process, it's going to move nutrients to the new leaves. So 1, 2, 3 months from now, as your bromeliad is growing new leaves, that slowly dying leaf is going to be kind of giving its nutrients to the new leaves. And when it gets to the point where it just looks really terrible, it's 90% dead, you could trim it off, but you don't want to be trimming them off prematurely when it's just got a little bit of brown at the tip or along the edges. So leave them on for as long as you can stand it. When you get to the point where you can't stand it anymore, you could trim it off then. And Marianne also asks, do you sell the Florida natives like coral honeysuckle? I know that they have carried coral honeysuckle there in the past. I'm not positive if they have any in stock right now. You can always go by and check and ask. Our master gardeners do have a Facebook page. So if you look on Facebook, let me look on Facebook and let me try to find it. and let me share the link because I am on a lot of different Facebook groups. Let's see, what's the easiest way for me to find it? Here we go. I have it right here. The name of it is UF/IFAS, IFAS, extension Master Gardener's Nursery, Hernando County. So that is a long name. Um, Let me get really tricky here. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat box here. So hopefully all of you can see that. And it looks like it showed up on at least one of the Facebook pages and the YouTube. So that's a link to the Master Gardeners Facebook page. So you can go on there and you can IM them and ask them questions. So if you want to know if they carry coral honeysuckle or carry this or that or whatever else you might be interested in, you can get in touch with them through their Facebook page. The person that runs that does a fantastic job of keeping up, and they answer questions, quite honestly, quicker on Facebook than I do. I'll get to them, but sometimes it takes me a little time and I'm not super fast. Catch me on the right day, I'll answer it within a few minutes, but other times it takes a little bit longer. So if we have any other questions out there, you guys are doing a great job of keeping me on my toes today and asking me a variety of different things. Okay. Terry says, good morning. I'm fairly new to Florida and I'm having a hard time growing from seed. I do not have a greenhouse, so largely working with my garden tub uh, in the bathroom and covered porch. They often germinate, but then get very leggy and then die. Any tips? Yes, I start a lot of my vegetables, whether it be for my spring garden or winter garden, from seed. It's really, really hard to go out and find transplants. Transplants are expensive. You can go to big box stores and they don't have a really, really wide variety. If they have anything, they're not healthy, they got diseases. So I like to start my own. I can order the seeds and there's a million varieties of vegetables I can pick from. So what you want to do is start the seeds in little containers. You can get trays with little individual cells for planting seeds in. You can use, yogurt cups. You can use any kind of container as long as it has drainage for the water to drain out. And you want to go out and get a really good seed starting soil. That's going to work the best. You don't want to just go out in your backyard and dig up sand and start in that. It can have a lot of diseases, pests, problems with it. So you want to use a good sterile seed starting mix. So I don't have a greenhouse either. I make use of my garage and the edge of the driveway out on the front of the house, which faces east. So I'll start seeds in the trays when they come up. And as soon as they come up, I take them outside and put them in the sun. If the weather's nice, like it is today, I have tomato and pepper seedlings out in the sun right now. The weather is beautiful. Here in Hernando County, it's not so cold it's going to damage anything. So put it out in the full sun during the day. Make sure they don't dry out. Keep them moist. And then at night, if it's going to get chilly, or if we have a major freeze coming or a frost or whatever, pick the trays up and bring them inside. Now, if we have a couple days where it's going to get below freezing and the high is only going to be like 40, you may have to keep them in the garage for a couple days straight. When the weather gets nice, put them outside. So this obviously results maybe in a lot of in and out and back and forth during the late winter and early spring, but it's definitely worth it because that way, when your seedlings are in the full sun, they won't get leggy. They're going to grow. They're going to look great. They're going to be healthy. Don't let them dry out. Keep them watered. And if they're in trays or something that you can move, you can bring them into your garage. You keep them safe from that really, really cold temperatures and works really, really well. So I think if you try that, that will solve a lot of problems. And I'm not sure what you're planting, But if you're growing vegetables, there are so many good catalogs and companies online. Oh my gosh, if you want to try growing tomatoes, there are probably 500 varieties of tomatoes that you could try. So if you try one, try a whole bunch, and they're either going to work out great, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best tasting, healthiest, easy to grow variety of tomato there is, or it's going to work out terrible, like, oh my gosh, this other variety got diseases right away, didn't get tomatoes, I only got one tomato and it tasted terrible. Just don't grow that one again. That way you can learn which ones you like the best and stick with the ones that work, experiment with the brand new ones, throw away seeds from the ones that you hate and you don't like, and that way that goes a long way towards just kind of getting a fantastic vegetable garden going here. So one of our biggest supporters and biggest fans, Andrew Dave, asked, any idea of growing hot peppers from seeds with lighting instructions? Like I just said, you really don't need indoor lighting if you're able to physically move them outside when it's sunny and warm enough and nice weather, and move them back inside when it's going to be really cold. And she lives in Tavares, Florida, which is very, very close to the same latitude here. You probably have pretty much the exact same weather. So thank you so much. We are always thrilled to be a blessing or a service, or actually help somebody solve a problem or answer a question. And like I said, just feel free to tune in. We're here almost every Thursday. So all these great comments here. I'm going to have to share this with Lily, I think, to let her know that even when I'm here all by myself, I could do pretty well. And we're actually a service to our residents and from people all over. I mean, keep in mind, gosh, some of the people on here, Buddy lives up in Tallahassee, which is up in the Panhandle, and Lee is in Broward County. We have had a lot of people from coastal Pinellas County and just south of there. So we have people from all over Florida, all different climates, all different microclimates. So always keep in mind a lot of the recommendations I give are for here in Central Florida. You have to adjust them a little bit for North Florida and South Florida. So if I forget to throw that in, keep that in mind. And we'll keep you all on track, and you'll get everything pruned up in March and looking good, and all those vegetable seedlings started. Um, like Andrew Dave, I grow hot peppers every year, and they, boy, if you get them up and growing, they can do really, really well. I grew Thai hot peppers about 2 years ago. I got a boatload of them. I got a fantastic harvest, and they're very small peppers that turn red, and it is the most important ingredient for General Tso's chicken. So if you had General Tso's chicken, the little hot peppers in it, those are Thai hot peppers. And you can take them. If you have a dehydrator, you can dry them. You can grind them up. And I got 2 full jars of powder, and I use it all the time. I'm not going to have to grow them again for another year or two because I have all the hot pepper that I need. And then last year I grew jalapenos, and I got boatloads of them. I did the same thing, dried them, ground them, turned them into a powder, and I have like 2.5 little jars of jalapeno. So this year I'm going to pick a couple of other kinds. Who was it who sent me the Weary peppers? Wiri, Wiri peppers. And that was Lee who sent them to me from Broward County. I still need to order, I need to get on the stick here and order some seeds for them. I'm going to try growing them. And that is a very, very hot pepper. They're very small, they're round, grows into a large bush that's ornamental, but very, very edible. They grow them and use them in lots and lots of recipes in Guyana. So I'm going to grow some. I dried mine and ground it, but I haven't had a chance to try them. Everything I've read is they're hot, but they're tasty. So moderation, I think, with that. But I'm going to try growing Weary peppers this year, see how they do. And yeah, Cindy, who's a regular viewer, is in Pinellas County. So we have people from all over the state here. And Andrew Dave asked a question about maintaining fig trees. She has no fruits. Figs are not going to really grow much or get any fruit during the winter. Figs generally grow from spring through fall, through when the weather gets cold. And during the winter, they normally drop all their leaves. By late summer, they always get fig rust, which is going to cause spots on the leaves. You can use a fungicide, but you're going to get fig rust and the leaves are going to fall off, but they were going to fall off anyway. Figs can be tricky if you have the tree growing in the ground. They have a lot of nematode problems, and it may cause figs to, over a period of a couple years, kind of not thrive. They go downhill and they eventually die. So figs can be a little tough to grow. You can grow figs in a very, very large container, like one of those wooden whiskey barrels that are cut in half or larger. And they do have a lot of large planters that you can use in your yard. It takes a lot of potting soil to fill it, but you can grow a small fig tree or other small tree in a big container and have pretty good luck with it. So, any other questions, guys? Go ahead and try to get them in quickly here before we wrap up to the day. Oh my gosh, another new viewer. Lorraine, how are you? Welcome. And Lorraine is a new resident and in Newport Richey. That is right down the road from here. We are down there going to certain stores of residents on a regular basis. And she's enjoying this. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining in. Have another thank you from Byron Susaki. So Byron, thank you so much for tuning in. And Andrew Dave, thank you so much for always the positive Facebook comments. And if you have any questions, gosh, you know that you can shoot me an email, you can ask through Facebook, you can join here on the virtual plant clinic every week. You can watch one of our live classes with me and Lily on Zoom, or we're going to do Facebook Live a lot more coming up, and you can ask questions live on there. So there's so many different ways that you can get in touch with us and ask your questions. I don't know what else we could do, but if we think of something, we'll probably try it and experiment and do it. Okay, so I got the pronunciation correct. This must just be my lucky day. So yeah, I'm going to have to share all these positive comments with Lily and make her think like, gosh, I don't know why I went to Pennsylvania for the snow and the ice, and I think she's going to go through an ice storm out there. Dr. Bill doesn't do ice storms anymore. That's just way too cold for me. So Terry, thank you so much for the nice comments there. Let's go ahead and make sure that everybody knows what our office's phone number is. If you ever have to contact our office here in Hernia County, there's the phone number. Normally, Teresa will be the one to answer the phone. She's not here today, but somebody will answer the phone. I'm not sure who, but we'll answer it. And there is my email address. And, you know, if you guys have any really, really difficult questions, there's Lily's email address. So send her the really hard, confusing ones. And then she likes to point out that if it's really hard, she's just going to forward it to me. So you can start with me. You can start with her. We'll figure it out and get an answer one way or the other. And see another last moment comment here. Andrew Dave says, we love you, Lily. So even Lily got a mention today, even though she couldn't be with us. I'm not sure if she's going to be back for next week or not. And I don't know with the ice storms coming up north, if she's going to get like stranded up there and she'll have to delay coming back or not. I don't know what's going on with Lily. I barely know what's going on with me from one day to another. But I do know that it's getting close to that time, and I think we're going to wrap it up for today. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And I will be back here again next Thursday. And if you have any questions, if you have any things going on in your yard, go out there and take pictures and email them to me before the virtual plant clinic, and I can download the picture and screen share it so that everybody can see it and we can show everybody. And that way we can all learn something new every Thursday together, because that's what this is kind of all about here. So, with that, thank you so much. Thank you for all the positive comments here. That always makes it worthwhile. And we will see you again next Thursday. Bye. Take care.